How's it going, guys? So I'm about to do a login, a couple of login pulls for my new tune with Hollywood. So I wanted to show you guys the setup that I'm using. I've got wires everywhere, as you can probably see. So I was using the rear O2 sensor splice method before, where basically you hook up your wideband sensor to the ECU and then log directly from that. But I was having so many issues doing that. The formulas were never correct. The readings that I was getting off of that logging method were just always wrong. So after almost a year, I decided to screw it and go with the serial login method. And I have the Innovate MTX-L gauge, and luckily my gauge has an out cable, and it also comes with a cable that plugs directly into the output and then has a serial connection on the other side. And then I got a GigaWare serial to USB cable from Radio Shack. They're about $27, $28, and then I use that and plug it directly into the laptop. And then down here I have the Tatrix. I'm not sure if you can see that. I have the Tatrix cable plugged in there, and then that wire again goes into the laptop. And the serial login is the best way to log. It's the most accurate. It's just a bit of a pain in the butt with hooking all this up, but at least it's going to be accurate, and I can tune properly. So yeah, a little later on in this video I'm going to show you some pulls, some wide open throttle pulls that I'm going to be doing for my tuner, and we're using E85 now, so we're dialing that in. So yeah, you're going to see some wide open throttle action with the MHI turbo. So yeah, make sure you stay tuned for that. Okay, so I just flashed my new map onto the ECU, and I now have EvoScan 2.9 open, so I'm ready to start logging. Put it in Super Sport mode. Let me do a quick test to make sure that the logging is correct. Select that, make sure it's on the right COM port, and yes, okay, so it's reading perfectly. Get these damn wires out of where my feet are. I always make sure that the gearbox and the car is warmed up properly before I do any pulls. I think that's really important. So, can't see a damn thing right now. So early in the morning. I was looking back through some of my my previous vlogs, and I was noticing that the sound quality, the voice of my voice, it was terrible. So I went out and bought a new microphone. So hopefully I have the mic plugged in right now into the GoPro. So hopefully you can hear me a lot better than before. That would be nice. Oh, there's an Evo right there. So now I'm just taking it easy in the car, letting it warm up, and I'm heading to do some pulls. Now, there's a known issue with when you flash a map with ECU flash and you flash it to the MRs, the SST cars. Sometimes it will show up that you have an SST cell code. It's completely normal. So right after you flash using ECU flash, just make sure it's in 2.8, Evo scan 2.8, because 2.9 has problems reading code. So make sure it's in 2.8, and then once you've flashed with ECU flash, just go into 2.8, show the SST codes and clear it, and it'll be fine. So not to worry about that. I mean, right now the sun, it's about 7 a.m. now, and the sun's just coming up. But it's a little bit dewy. Oh my God, some guy just went through a red light. It's a little bit dewy and foggy outside, but the temperatures are around just over 42 degrees right now. So yeah, I promised you guys some wide open throttle pulls. We've been tuning this last week. We've been tuning the car, and we're finally at the stage now where the car is ready to start making some power. We were dialing in the fuel and the timing and the boost and everything, and the car's running great on the pulls that I was doing a couple of days ago. So right now we're just getting ready to start adding more timing, playing with the MIVEC, setting that up properly, and making sure that the SST tables and everything are all properly in line and tuned, and make sure I don't get any clutch slippage or anything like that. So yeah, as I said, as I said before, I'm just letting the car warm up, and the gearbox and everything. But one thing you have to make sure is that before you do any pulls, you hold the traction control button down, that's over here, and make sure it's in the off position, because there's two offs. So you hold it down for about 6-7 seconds, and you'll hear it dong. I'm not sure if you just heard that, but you'll hear it dong, like it just did, and that means that the traction control is completely off. Because what can happen is when you're doing some pulls, the ECU can start to pull, torque, and mix, and start to interfere with the power going to the wheels and stuff, and you don't want that to happen when you're tuning, because you want to know exactly what the car is making power-wise, and when it's fully when it's in full throttle. On the way to a stretch where I do some pulls, I always try and go through the gears quite a lot, make sure that they're high revved, gear changes, just to make sure that the SST is fully warmed up before we do any pulls. So right now, I'm just giving it about 15% throttle. I can see about 4 psi on the boost gauge. Just getting some heat into the engine. Going through the gears, as I said, making sure that we warm the car up properly. Back down through the gears. Make sure that the car's running fine before we do any pulls. and obviously keeping an eye out, an ear out for any strange noises or anything like that. So again, just giving little blips of throttle here and there, but nothing more than about 10 or 20% throttle there. Going down through the gauges, the gears. Keeping the revs high. Again, only about 15% throttle here. And warming the car up. Making sure it's nice and warm. Before doing any pulls, I always make sure that I have any of the extra electricals turned off as well. So make sure your radio's off, your air conditioning, your heater, any kind of heated seats, any of that stuff. I turn all of that off. It's probably not needed, but it's just a habit of mine. Back down through the gears. Okay, on this next round I'm going to do a pull. When you do the pull, it's really important to know from your tuner what AFR reading and what boost reading to look out for, because you put your foot down in your car, it will go from 3,000 RPM to like 6,000 very, very quickly, and it's very hard. It can only take a second for something to pop or blow. So it's really important that if you're going to overboost or anything like that, you notice that the car's not doing what it should be. Say, for example, your tuner set your boost to 26 PSI. If you see 28 PSI, once you're holding your foot down, take your foot off, because something's not right, and you can easily overboost and cause some damage. Same with the AFR wideband gauge. Make sure that you know exactly what AFRs you should be seeing when you're doing these wide open throttle pulls, because if you run lean or run crazy rich, you can melt a piston, you can bend a rod very, very quickly. So it's important that you keep one eye on that stuff, on the gauges, and that's why it's so important to have the gauges, so you keep an eye on what's happening. Alright, strain to second, turn the logging on to third, build it up slowly to 3,000 RPM, and then floor it. And that was a wide open throttle pull. Always gets my the adrenaline rush going, and my heart pumping like crazy. And what I did, you may have seen my hand come across, is as soon as I got to roughly around the red line, when I see this, the needle go between the 7 and 8, which is roughly the red line, I let off, because I really don't think it's a good idea for people to be bouncing off the rev limiter. So what I did is I let off as soon as I saw it get to that halfway point between 7 and 8, and then I turned around and switched off the log, because for tuners, they don't want to have tons and tons of logs that mean nothing towards the pull. So it's hard for them to look through all the logs and figure out what's going on. If you do a nice clean log from 3,000 RPM to around 7,600, it's really easy for them to look through and see what's going on quickly. So I'm going to do one more pull. Some tuners make you start the logs at 2,500 RPM, 2,000 RPM. For me in Hollywood, my tuner, we like to start at 3,000. So that's where I start the foot to the floor action. Man, my adrenaline's still going from that pull. So I make sure that the log is not logging right now, so I get a nice clean run. And then I do the same again, so I go around straight into second gear, straight into third. I switch the log on, let it slowly build up to 3,000, and then floor it. And then let off, stop the data log. And that's it. That is how you log. That is how you do pulls for an e-tune. If you get dyno tune, they do exactly the same thing, but just on a dyno. Whew, that felt awesome. The power that's in the car right now is much higher than it's ever been in my car. So it's really, you can really feel it. We're starting to put torque into the car now and get those numbers up there. But yeah, it really gets the old heart beating, which is the whole point of the cars, really, I guess. So yeah, now I just take it slow. I put the traction control back on now, so I just hit the button once. And then and that's pretty much it. That's how you log for an e-tuner. A lot of people have, questions. They're not sure about e-tuning. They'd rather go to a dyno tuner. And honestly, if you have a good e-tuner, it's probably going to be better for you in your car than a dyno tune, because most dyno tunes, when you go to them, they spend like an hour on your car. They use a base map for a car that they've tuned before. They do a couple tweaks, and that's pretty much it. E-tuners, especially Hollywood, who I work with, spend hours and hours and hours. I mean, me and Hollywood have been tuning up my car for nearly a year now. Because I went, I started off on 93 gas, and then I started adding parts, and then I got the new turbo, and all the supporting mods, the fuel and all that kind of stuff, and then whoa, no wonder you've got fucked up. This guy's got half of his front of his car missing, and he just pulled out in front of me. So yeah, and then we switched to E85 gas because it's readily available where I'm from. Are these people got a death wish today? Again, somebody just went through a stop sign. But yeah, usually e-tuners will not charge you huge amounts to get tweaked and retuned when you get new parts added to your car. Whereas if you go to a dyno they charge you for the dyno time, which, you know, could be a couple $100 again if you need to go get tuned again because you've had an intake or, you know, something like that. So e-tuners are really the way to go, you know. And also there's e-tuners can tune you wherever you are in the world. It doesn't matter if, you know, you're in, I mean, Hollywood tunes a lot of the time from Alaska, which is the other side of the world pretty much. But yeah, so I'm gonna let the car cool down a little bit before I turn it off. But I wanted to show you guys how to log, how the e-tuning process works, and, you know, doing some wide open throttle pulls. I'm really excited to get this tune finished up. We should finish up with some really nice power and a nice, safe, reliable daily driving tune on the SST. So yeah, go visit RawEvo.com. Stay tuned for the next video, and yeah, come say hi on the RawEvo forums. If there's a shop that you've been to and you've had an experience with, please go to the shop rating system on RawEvo.com and make sure you rate that shop that you've had experiences with. It helps everyone else out. So yeah, until next time, guys, thanks for tuning in.